A bedtime story. Our story does not begin with a grand castle or a bustling kingdom. It begins in a small, quiet corner of the world, in a cozy cottage nestled at the very edge of a vast, ancient, and sleepy forest. It begins with the first gentle touch of morning, a soft golden light, the color of honey, filtering through a small paned window. This light is not bright or harsh. It is a gentle invitation to the new day. It illuminates the tiny, shimmering dust motes as they dance in a silent, peaceful ballet in the air. Let your mind drift into this little cottage, into this moment of perfect calm. Chapter 1. The Warmth of the Morning. Inside the cottage, it is warm. It is a gentle, comforting warmth that radiates from the stone hearth where a small, cheerful fire crackles and pops softly. The air itself is filled with the most wonderful smells: the rich, sweet scent of a freshly baked cake, a hint of cinnamon and nutmeg, and the faint, earthy aroma of wood smoke from the fire. Breathe it in, a scent of safety, of home. A little girl is sitting at a heavy, worn wooden table. The surface of the table is smooth from years of use, and she is tracing the swirling patterns of the wood grain with her small finger, a slow, thoughtful, circular motion. Her hair is the color of spun gold, catching the morning light, and her eyes are bright with the quiet curiosity of youth. This is the girl who will soon be known as Little Red Riding Hood. Her mother moves about the kitchen with a grace born of quiet routine. Her movements are slow, deliberate, and create a soft symphony of domestic sounds. The gentle clink of a ceramic bowl, the soft scrape of a wooden spoon, the almost silent sigh of flour being sifted onto a wooden board. She hums a quiet, happy tune to herself, a simple, wordless melody that weaves itself into the fabric of this peaceful morning. Finally, the little cake is ready. The mother, using a thick cloth, pulls it from the hearth oven. A wave of warm, sweet air washes through the kitchen. She places the cake on a wire rack on the table to cool. It is a perfect little seed cake, with a delicate dusting of sugar that sparkles like frost in the sunbeam. "My dear," the mother says, and her voice is as soft and comforting as a well-loved woolen blanket. "Your grandmother is not feeling well today. Her bones are aching with the dampness in the air. I would like you to take her this little cake and this pot of fresh, sweet butter. I believe the sight of you and a taste of this will bring a smile to her face." The little girl looks up, her eyes lighting up at the thought of her grandmother. She loves her very much. Her mother walks over to a large, dark wood chest that sits against the wall. She lifts the heavy lid, and from within, she pulls out a beautiful little cloak. It is made of the softest, deepest red velvet you can possibly imagine, a red like a ripe strawberry in the sun. "Here," the mother whispers as she drapes the cloak over her daughter's small shoulders. "This will keep you warm on your journey. The forest air can be cool, even on a sunny day." The girl reaches up and touches the fabric. It is incredibly soft, so plush and deep. She runs her fingers over it, feeling the texture. She pulls the heavy hood up over her head. It is large and deep, and it frames her little face perfectly. It is from this day forward that everyone who saw her in this beautiful cloak would call her Little Red Riding Hood. Her mother then takes the little cake, which is still warm to the touch, and the cool, heavy pot of butter, and places them gently into a small wicker basket. She arranges a clean white cloth over the top. The handle of the basket feels smooth and sturdy in the little girl's hand. "Now, listen very carefully, my love," the mother says, kneeling down so her voice is right beside her daughter's ear, a serious and loving whisper. "The path to your grandmother's house is a straight one, but it goes through the deep woods. You must promise me you will stay on the path. Do not wander off to chase a butterfly or pick a flower. The path is safe. The woods can be unpredictable. Do not stop to play. And most importantly, you must not talk to any strangers you might meet. The forest is deep, and it holds many secrets. Do you promise me this?" "I promise, Mother," Little Red Riding Hood whispers back, her heart full of sincerity and good intentions. She gives her mother a long, warm hug. She can feel the comforting strength in her mother's arms, and she can smell the lingering scent of cinnamon and flour on her apron. Then, with her basket in hand, she walks to the heavy wooden door and steps out of the warm, cozy cottage into the bright, crisp morning air. Chapter 2. The Whispering Forest Path. The forest greets her with a gentle embrace. The air here is different, cooler, fresher. It smells of damp earth, of ancient pine trees, and the faint, sweet perfume of unseen wildflowers. Tall, majestic trees stand like silent, gentle guardians on either side of the path. Their branches are heavy with leaves, forming a high green canopy that filters the morning sun. The light that reaches the forest floor is dappled and soft, creating ever-changing patterns of light and shadow that dance upon the path before her. Little Red Riding Hood begins her walk. Her small shoes make a soft, rhythmic, crunching sound on the path, which is covered in a soft carpet of dry leaves, fallen twigs, and pine needles. Let the sound of her footsteps guide you, a slow, steady, relaxing rhythm. She walks without hurry, her senses open to the world around her. She listens to the intricate symphony of the forest, the gentle, soothing whoosh of the wind as it whispers through the highest leaves, the distant, percussive tap-tap-tapping of a woodpecker, the busy, contented buzz of a bumblebee investigating a patch of clover at the edge of the path. The path, worn smooth by time, meanders gently. After a while, it leads her alongside a small, clear stream. She pauses in her journey here, drawn by the sound of the water. She kneels down, placing her basket carefully on a patch of soft, green moss that feels like velvet to the touch. She watches the water as it gurgles and chatters, flowing endlessly over smooth, gray river stones. The sunlight catches the ripples on the surface, making them sparkle like 1,000 tiny scattered diamonds. She dips her fingers into the stream. The water is cool, clean, and refreshing against her skin. She stays there for a long time, just watching, just listening, feeling completely at peace. The forest feels like a kind and welcoming friend, holding her safely in its ancient embrace. But then, a change, a subtle shift in the air. The forest goes quiet. The birds stop their singing. The buzzing of the insects ceases. Even the wind itself seems to hold its breath. A large, unseen cloud must have passed before the sun, because a sudden shadow falls over the path, making the greens of the forest seem deeper, the browns darker. Little Red Riding Hood stops walking, and standing there, in the sudden stillness, right in the middle of the path before her is a great wolf. His fur is the color of shadow and smoke, thick and deep. His body is lean and powerful, and his eyes are a startling, intelligent, piercing yellow. He is not growling, he is not snarling. He is simply standing there, watching her with a calm, patient, unnerving intensity. She remembers her mother's words, whispered so urgently, "Do not talk to any strangers." Her heart beats a little faster, a soft thump-thump in her chest. But the wolf does not move like a threat. He dips his head in a gesture that is almost a bow, and then he smiles, showing just the very tips of his sharp white teeth. And when he speaks, his voice is not a snarl at all. It is a deep, calm, and strangely hypnotic rumble, a vibration that seems to resonate in the air itself. "Good morning, little one," he says, his voice a low, peaceful sound. "And where might you be going on this fine and beautiful day, all by yourself in this deep, quiet wood?" His voice is so soothing. It is like the deep purr of a giant cat. It does not sound dangerous. It sounds wise. So, forgetting her promise in that moment, Little Red Riding Hood answers him in her own small, quiet voice. "I am going to my grandmother's house, sir. She is unwell, and I am bringing her this cake and butter to make her feel better." "Ah," the wolf rumbles, a sound of deep understanding. "How very kind and thoughtful you are. A truly good granddaughter. And where does this grandmother of yours live?" "Just a little further through the woods," she says, pointing a small finger down the path. "Her house is the very first one you see when you leave the forest, standing under 3 great oak trees." The wolf's yellow eyes seem to gleam for a moment, a brief, bright flash. He looks down the main path, and then his gaze drifts to a smaller, fainter trail, nearly hidden by tall ferns and wildflowers. "You know," he says, and his voice drops even lower, becoming even more persuasive, a hypnotic whisper. "The main path is so direct, so very plain. But look over there." He gestures with his long snout towards the smaller path. That path winds through the Sun Meadow. It is covered in the most beautiful flowers you have ever seen. Poppies like drops of blood, cornflowers as blue as the sky, buttercups like little coins of gold. Why don't you take a little detour, gather a beautiful bouquet for your dear grandmother? Imagine her smile when she sees them. The sight and scent of them would surely make her feel so much better. He makes it sound like the kindest, most thoughtful suggestion in the world. "I will take this shorter, main path to her house," the wolf continues smoothly, his voice a gentle murmur. "Just to make sure the way is clear and safe for you. We can even make a little game of it to see who arrives first." Little Red Riding Hood hesitates for only a single heartbeat. The image of her grandmother's happy face when presented with a large, beautiful bouquet is too lovely to resist. The wolf seems so kind, so helpful. "All right," she says softly, "that is a wonderful idea." And with a final, charming, and knowing smile, the wolf turns and disappears down the main path, moving with a silent, effortless, and terrifying speed. Chapter 3: The Sun Meadow of Forgetfulness. Little Red Riding Hood turns onto the smaller path, the one suggested by the wolf. She pushes aside a curtain of soft green ferns and steps out of the shadows of the trees into a place of pure magic. She is standing in a large, sun-drenched meadow. The sunlight here is warm and golden, and it feels wonderful on her face and arms. The air is thick with the sweet, honeyed scent of 1,000 blooming wildflowers. She takes a long, slow breath, filling her lungs with the perfume. She carefully sets her wicker basket down in the tall, soft grass and begins her new, happy task. She sees a bright yellow buttercup, its petals so glossy they look like they've been polished. She plucks it carefully, its stem making a tiny snap. She adds a stem of delicate blue forget-me-nots, their tiny flowers like a little piece of the fallen sky. She finds a patch of deep red poppies, their petals as soft and fragile as silk against her fingertips. She wanders deeper and deeper into the meadow, completely absorbed. She follows the lazy, drifting flight of a beautiful white butterfly, its wings like paper lace. It flutters just out of her reach, leading her further and further from the path. She completely forgets about the time. She forgets about her promise to her mother. The world here in this sun-drenched meadow is so peaceful, so full of vibrant color and gentle light. She feels utterly safe, utterly happy. After a while, she lies back in the tall, soft grass, which cradles her like a soft bed. She gazes up at the deep blue sky above. Fluffy white clouds drift slowly, lazily across it, changing their shapes as they go. One looks like a ship, another a sleeping lamb. She feels the gentle warmth of the sun on her skin. She closes her eyes just for a moment and listens to the gentle symphony of the meadow, the buzz of the bees, the chirp of the grasshoppers, the whisper of the wind in the tall grass. It is a perfect, timeless moment of blissful peace. Finally, with her arms full of a large, beautiful, and fragrant bouquet, she remembers her grandmother. She gets up, brushes the grass from her red cloak, picks up her basket, and happily continues on her way, humming the little tune her mother was humming this morning, convinced she has chosen the most wonderful path in the entire world. Chapter 4: The Quiet House and the Croaking Voice. Meanwhile, the wolf, running as fast as the wind, has long since arrived at the grandmother's house. The little cottage, nestled under the 3 great oak trees, looks quiet and still. A thin curl of smoke rises from its chimney. He pads silently, his paws making no sound on the soft earth. He goes to the front door and knocks softly with his claw. Knock, knock, knock. From deep inside the cottage, a weak, frail voice calls out, "Who is there?" The wolf clears his throat and pitches his own deep voice high and sweet, making it sound as much like a little girl as he can. "It is I, grandmother, your little Red Riding Hood. I have brought you a delicious cake and some fresh butter." "Oh, how lovely," the old woman's voice calls back, sounding pleased. "I am too weak to get up today, my dear. Just lift the latch on the door and it will open." The wolf, with great cleverness, lifts the iron latch with his paw. The door swings inward. In a single, silent bound, he is across the room and at the bedside. He opens his great, dark jaws and swallows the poor old woman in one gulp. Then, With a chilling, methodical calmness, he closes the front door, finds the grandmother's spare nightgown and frilly nightcap, and puts them on. He climbs into the bed, which is still warm. He draws the thick curtains around the bed, leaving only a small gap, and pulls the heavy quilt all the way up to his chin. And there, in the dim, quiet room, surrounded by the scent of lavender and old books, he waits. A little while later, Little Red Riding Hood arrives at the cottage. She notices that the door is not quite shut, which seems strange. The house seems unusually quiet. She walks to the door and knocks softly. Knock, knock, knock. Who is there? A voice calls from inside. The voice sounds wrong. It is hoarse and low and gravelly, not at all like her grandmother's gentle voice. "It is I, grandmother," she calls out, a little hesitantly. "Little Red Riding Hood." "Lift the latch, my dear," the hoarse voice croaks from within, "and come inside." She lifts the latch, and the door creaks open. The inside of the cottage is dark and shadowy, as the shutters are mostly closed. The air feels cold and still. She sees the large canopy bed, its curtains drawn, looking like a dark cave in the corner of the room. "Grandmother," she says softly, her voice barely a whisper, as she takes a slow step inside. "Come closer, my child," the voice from the bed says. "Come closer." She walks quietly, her soft shoes making no sound on the stone floor. She walks to the bedside. It is so dark in the room, she can barely see the figure lying beneath the covers. She can only make out a shape and the white frill of a nightcap. "Oh, grandmother," she whispers, her voice filled with a sudden, deep concern. "What very big ears you have." "All the better to hear you with, my dear." "And grandmother," she continues, leaning just a little bit closer, trying to see the face in the shadows. "What very big eyes you have." "All the better to see you with, my dear." "But grandmother, what very big hands you have." "All the better to hug you with, my dear." She is very close to the bed now, so close that she can smell a strange, wild animal scent, like damp fur and dark earth. It is not her grandmother's scent at all. And in the deep shadows of the nightcap, she sees the glint of something sharp and white. Her heart begins to beat a little faster, a soft, frightened drum against her ribs. "But, grandmother," she whispers, and her voice is trembling just a little now, "what a very big mouth you have." There is a terrible, final pause, a deep silence that seems to stretch for an eternity. And then the voice changes, losing all pretense of kindness, all attempt at disguise, becoming a deep, terrible, resonant growl that fills the small, dark room. "All the better to eat you with." Chapter 5. The Sound of Hope and the Warmth of the Fire. And in the dark, silent cottage, the wolf, his belly now full, feels a great sleepiness overcome him. He lies back on the pillows and falls into a deep, deep sleep. He begins to snore, a loud, powerful, rumbling sound that seems to make the very floorboards of the little house vibrate. Just at that moment, a local woodcutter is passing by the cottage on his way home. He knows the kind old woman who lives there, and he finds it very strange to hear such a loud and powerful snoring coming from inside. My goodness, he thinks to himself, pausing to listen. The old lady is snoring like a thunderstorm. That does not sound right at all. I should just peek in and make sure she is all right. He walks to the front door and sees that it is ajar. He pushes it open gently. He steps inside the quiet house, and his eyes immediately fall upon the great wolf fast asleep in the grandmother's bed. At once, he understands everything that has happened. He moves with a quiet, determined purpose. He does not reach for his heavy axe to bring more violence into the little house. Instead, with great care and precision, he takes a large pair of sewing scissors from the grandmother's sewing basket on the windowsill. He approaches the sleeping wolf, and with a steady hand, he begins to snip open the wolf's great belly. The sound is quiet, precise, methodical. After just a few careful snips, he sees a flash of deep red velvet, and with one more long, careful cut, out jumps Little Red Riding Hood, safe and completely unharmed. And right after her, out comes the grandmother, also alive and whole, though a little out of breath. They do not linger on the sight of the sleeping wolf. Instead, working together in the quiet twilight, they go out into the garden and gather heavy, smooth, gray stones from the stream bed. They fill the wolf's belly with the heavy stones, and the grandmother, with her nimble fingers, quickly sews the seam shut again. And when the wolf finally wakes from his deep sleep, he feels terribly thirsty and incredibly heavy. He stumbles out of the cottage towards the well to get a drink, but the great weight of the stones inside him causes him to lose his balance. He tumbles headfirst into the deep, dark well and is never seen again. And then there is peace. A deep, profound, and gentle peace settles over the little cottage. The woodcutter, with a kind smile, builds a warm, cheerful fire in the hearth. The grandmother fills the kettle with fresh, cool water and places it on the hook over the fire to boil. Little Red Riding Hood, her fear now melting away, sets the little wooden table with 3 mismatched, charming cups and saucers. Soon, they are all sitting together around the little table. The firelight from the hearth flickers and dances, casting warm, gentle, moving shadows on the walls. It is safe now. It is warm. The air is filled with a feeling of profound relief and comfort. The kettle begins to whistle softly, a happy, steaming sound. The grandmother pours the hot water into a teapot filled with fragrant herbs. She pours the steaming, fragrant tea into the 3 cups. Little Red Riding Hood opens her basket and takes out the little cake, which is still miraculously intact. She places it in the center of the table. They sit there together, sipping their warm tea and eating the sweet cake. They do not speak much. There is no need for words. They simply exist together in the comfortable silence, listening to the crackling of the fire and the steady, reassuring ticking of the clock. The world outside the cottage windows is now dark. The forest is deep and full of shadows, but inside this little house, there is only warmth, safety, and a deep, lasting peace. And Little Red Riding Hood, she never, ever strayed from the path again. Now, just continue to listen to the fire. Listen to the ticking of the clock, and let these sounds of safety and comfort carry you away into a deep and peaceful sleep.